Toboso Yana is the creator of Twisted Wonderland. In this interview from the 2020 Magical Archives Game Guide, she explains why the game focuses on the Disney movies that it does, the concepts behind the dorms, and her favorite Disney movies. The number one reason these characters were chosen to be the Great Seven is that they are all from masterpieces with which everyone is familiar. They are all legendary. You need only say the movie titles and the characters come immediately to mind. Since they are also legends in their own right, we thought it would be good to choose stories with a long history, and that is how we settled on these 7. There are many other movies with fascinating villains, so it was a very difficult decision. Each dormitory was designed based on their respective villain's soul, perspective, and personality. For example, Savannah Claw embodies the wildness, cunning, and languor of Scar in everything from the outfits, the building itself, and the students who live there. The 7 Disney films that are the sources of inspiration for each dorm vary greatly from film to film in tone and theme. The period settings are also varied, ranging from mythological times to the modern era. I wanted to visualize these differences so that the viewer could experience them firsthand. That is why, when the 7 dormitories are placed side by side, they are so different from each other that it seems almost overkill. I had a particularly difficult time creating the characters because of the disparate historical settings of the original films that inspired them. Since the game takes place in a school, there can only be 3 to 4 years of age difference between them, although there are a few special cases. Yet, there is a gap of several hundred years between the original films upon which the characters are based. I wanted them to be different from one another, but if they were too different, it would be difficult for them to hold a conversation. So I thought, why not replace the different eras with different values that depend on their origin? In the real world, personal values and things that are considered to be common sense vary wildly from country to country. Therefore, I thought, depending on the dorm, character origin and race, personal values and common sense can vary dramatically despite how they are all living in the same historical setting. I had a hard time answering this question about my favorite Disney movies, and it took me several days. I would like to talk about 10, or even 20 more films, but I narrowed it down to 4. Beauty and the Beast is the film that had the greatest influence on me when I was young and still trying to find myself. The Ruined Castle, the inhuman prince and his servants, the wise and strong heroine, the undaunted villain, I love all the different elements, too much. My favorite characters are Mrs. Potts and Chip. Treasure Planet was the catalyst that started me watching a lot of Disney films. I saw it casually in the theater when I was 18, and immediately afterwards started drawing and submitting manga to publishers. The main character, Jim, was a very realistic teenager, and I felt really empowered by how hard he worked. The characters are all quirky and selfish. But that's what makes them so appealing. The main character and the villain are not entirely good, but they are not all bad either. This is one of the films that had a particularly strong influence on me when I was working on Twisted Wonderland. My favorite character is Jim. I watch The Nightmare Before Christmas on Halloween or Christmas every year. Tim Burton's films have influenced me a lot. I always fall in love with his stylization and ability to portray sinister motifs in a charming way. The main character, Jack, his energy is infectious. My favorite character is Dr. Finkelstein. Lilo and Stitch. The story of a bratty alien who meets a girl and discovers what a real family is. It's a science fiction-like story with lots of different aliens, but they are all very human and try their best every day, which makes me want to hug them all. And Stitch is too cute. My favorite character is Stitch.